your boss fired you by email and then stole credit for your biggest project?
What would you do if your boss fired you by email and stole your biggest achievement in the same message? No warning, no meeting, no conversation, just a subject line at 6:17 a.m.
Organizational changes, effective immediately.
That's how Daniel Reed, 34 years old, senior product strategist, found out his career at Whitmore Analytics was over. But before we continue, please subscribe and turn on the notification bell for updates. Open the email half awake, expecting a routine update. Instead, he read,
Your role is no longer needed. Good luck.
"No thank you. No transition plan, no acknowledgement of the 11 months he spent building the company's most ambitious product expansion." And then, 10 minutes later, his phone buzzed again. A company-wide announcement. Regional Director Marcus Whitmore, 48, smiling in a polished headshot, announcing the launch of a visionary strategic initiative he had been personally architecting over the past year. Daniel stared at the screen, personally architecting. That initiative was Daniel's framework, Daniel's projections, Daniel's vendor relationships, Daniel's late nights and quiet Saturdays. Marcus presented, Daniel built, and just like that, Marcus erased him. So what did Daniel do? Did he rage? Did he threaten legal action? Did he fire off a 2,000-word email exposing everything? Number. He typed one word.
Understood.
That was it. Calm, measured, almost polite. And here's the part that makes this story different. When Marcus read that response, he smirked. He thought he'd won. What he didn't realize was that Daniel wasn't reacting. He was confirming something. Because 3 weeks later, Marcus would call Daniel 14 times in one afternoon. And by then, it was already too late.
Wait a minute. He just typed understood and then did nothing else. How can someone stay that calm after losing everything? What could he be hiding or planning that Marcus didn't notice?
Firing someone by email is cold. Taking credit for their work in the same breath? That's calculated. Marcus Whitmore had always mastered optics. At 48, he knew how to fill a room, how to hold eye contact just long enough, how to say,
My team.
while subtly meaning, my vision. In executive meetings, he stood at the head of the table, clicker in hand, confident smile, crisp slides. But Daniel built those slides. For 11 months, Daniel Reed constructed the entire expansion strategy from scratch. Market research models, financial forecasts, vendor negotiations, beta rollout architecture. Every risk assessment had his fingerprints on it. Marcus delivered the performance. And the morning Daniel was fired, the company intranet featured Marcus's launch announcement like a trophy. Here's where it gets interesting. When Daniel opened the termination email, he didn't immediately check the wording again. He checked something else. System access, still active. Shared drive, still synced. Executive folder labeled MW Strategic Initiative, fully accessible. Strange, right? Most companies revoke access within minutes. It's automatic. HR Protocol 101. But not this time. Daniel leaned back in his chair and reread Marcus's line.
Your role is no longer needed.
Role. Not employment terminated immediately, not access revoked, not contract concluded, just role. 3 weeks earlier, Marcus had asked Daniel to consolidate every file under his executive directory.
Cleaner structure.
Marcus said.
Board-like simplicity.
Daniel agreed. Of course he did. But Daniel had a habit Marcus underestimated. He documented everything. Every draft iteration, every approval email, every vendor authorization, every digital signature. And one more thing Marcus never paid attention to. The external vendor contracts weren't tied to Marcus's executive title. They were tied to the original architect's compliance credentials, Daniel's credentials. So when Daniel typed "understood," he wasn't accepting defeat. He was acknowledging that the chain of responsibility had just been severed. Marcus thought he had erased Daniel from the picture, but what he had really done was remove the only person who could keep the machine running smoothly. And the machine was about to make noise.
Oh, really? So he didn't react at all? But yet systems are glitching. Vendors purse. Is he really that powerless? Or is there something he set up that we are not seeing?
Revenge is loud in movies. In real life, it's paperwork. 3 days after Daniel's firing, everything at Whitmore Analytics looked normal. The launch announcement was still pinned to the company homepage. Marcus was soaking in congratulations. LinkedIn comments poured in. Visionary leadership, bold execution, game-changing strategy. Daniel did nothing. No angry post, no vague status update, no big news coming soon. He updated his resume, went for a run, booked a short trip to Denver, had dinner with a friend, and didn't even mention Marcus's name. Why? Because Daniel wasn't playing defense. He was waiting for gravity to do its job. On Monday morning, a small hiccup appeared. The external analytics dashboard stopped syncing live data. IT labeled it a minor API delay. Marcus waved it off. By Wednesday, one of the beta vendors paused distribution. Their system required renewal authorization. The email bounced internally before landing in legal's queue. Still fixable, still small. But here's the contradiction Marcus didn't see coming. He had centralized visibility, not control. Visibility makes you look powerful. Control keeps things running. And control, specifically vendor authorization and compliance verification, was linked to the original strategic architect, Daniel. IT escalated the issue. Permissions structured under Daniel Reed per compliance protocol. Compliance protocol. Those two words slow everything down. Marcus reread Daniel's final reply.
Understood.
At first, it felt submissive. Now it felt deliberate. Have you ever replayed a conversation and suddenly heard it differently? Marcus began making calls. IT, legal, operations. Each conversation ended with a variation of the same sentence.
We need reassignment documentation. Documentation that didn't exist, because Marcus had eliminated the role before transferring the authority structure attached to it. By Friday, the board requested a performance readiness report before the public investor webinar. Routine check, except routine checks expose foundations, and foundations come with names. When the audit log was pulled for review, one detail stood out on every critical file.
Primary architect.
Daniel Reed. And that's when the silence stopped feeling calm. It started feeling strategic. But what surfaced in the boardroom the following week would shift this from a minor operational glitch into something public.
Hold on. Every key file still lists Daniel as the architect. Vendors contact can't transfer without him. How is Marcus even supposed to fix this? Something bigger is coming.
The collapse didn't happen with shouting. It happened with a question. Can we clarify authorship on this framework? That's how the board meeting shifted. Marcus stood at the front of the glass-walled conference room, polished as ever, navy suit, controlled smile, slide deck glowing behind him. The title read, Strategic Expansion Initiative, Executive Overview. He was mid-sentence when board member Elaine Porter, 62, former compliance attorney, leaned forward.
Before we proceed,
She said calmly,
I'd like clarity on why every foundational document lists Daniel Reed as primary architect.
Silence. The kind that stretches. Marcus gave a soft chuckle.
Team collaboration.
He replied.
Daniel supported execution.
Supported. Interesting word choice. Elaine didn't smile. She clicked into the version history log displayed on screen. There it was. time-stamped drafts, original financial models, vendor onboarding structures, risk mitigation matrices, all created, structured, and authorized by Daniel. And then legal spoke.
We're also seeing that vendor contracts are non-transferable without written reassignment. We don't appear to have that documentation on file.
That's when the temperature changed, because this wasn't about credit anymore. It was about operational authority. Marcus scrolled through his tablet, faster now, his jaw tightening slightly. The public webinar with investors was scheduled in 5 days. The beta vendors were paused. Analytics syncing was unstable, and every fix required authorization credentials tied to a role he had declared no longer needed. Marcus checked his phone under the table. 3 missed calls from the CFO, 2 from legal, a market alert notification, stock dip, 3.8%. Small, but noticeable. He typed Daniel's name, call, no answer. Again, no answer. Again, voicemail. That's when it hit him. Daniel hadn't reacted because he didn't need to. He had structured everything to function properly, under policy. Marcus removed the role. The system followed policy, and policy doesn't negotiate. But what Marcus didn't yet know was that Daniel wasn't sitting at home watching this unfold. He was in another glass building across town, and the timing of that meeting would change everything. Daniel didn't sabotage anything. He didn't hack systems. He didn't leak secrets. He followed protocol, meticulously, deliberately, and quietly. Every file, every contract, every approval was documented, every draft archived, every vendor authorization tied to the proper compliance credentials. Marcus had eliminated Daniel's role, but Daniel had already built a safety net. And safety nets in corporate structures don't just catch you, they catch everyone who tries to jump ahead. 2 months before the firing, Daniel had quietly interviewed elsewhere. Not because he was planning revenge, not because he hated Marcus. He understood patterns, systems, and leverage. He knew what would happen if Marcus had control without oversight. And more importantly, he knew what would happen if Marcus thought taking credit was enough to secure authority. Most employees react emotionally, but Daniel, he planned strategically. The board convened an emergency review after the glitches became public. They pulled the version history logs, cross-checked the vendor authorizations, and verified timestamps. Everything traced back to Daniel. Every document, every decision, every approval, all his work. Marcus's public persona was intact in presentations, but the audit trail told a different story. It told a story of erasure gone wrong. The company couldn't simply ignore it. Procedures were clear, policies were binding, and Daniel had built them with foresight. The press release announcing the visionary initiative was quietly updated. Credit was reassigned. Marcus was placed on administrative leave pending a compliance review. The system he thought he controlled now highlighted his oversight. Investors murmured, internal teams whispered, and Marcus, who had thought a single email could erase someone, realized the truth too late. The realization wasn't loud. It was slow, deliberate, and public, and every step had been accounted for by the one person he underestimated. Daniel's calm reply, understood, was no surrender. It was leverage. He didn't need to argue, shout, or retaliate. He let the system work. He let the policies protect him. And he let Marcus's overconfidence unravel in real time. The moment of recognition, the dopamine spike viewers crave, didn't hit immediately. It built, piece by piece, document by document, until the eventual public acknowledgement made Marcus's failure undeniable. So what's the takeaway? In modern workplaces, visibility isn't power. Documentation is. Calm isn't weakness. Strategy beats emotion. And sometimes, when someone types understood, they're not accepting defeat. They're silently setting the stage for consequences no one else sees coming. The most dangerous person in the room isn't the one yelling. It's the one quietly controlling the outcome, letting everyone else think they're winning, until the moment they realize they've already lost. If you've ever been underestimated at work, remember this. Patience, precision, and foresight can be more powerful than anger. And when the system is on your side, even the boldest villain can't escape the consequences they didn't anticipate.
Calm isn't weakness. Sometimes the most calm person already has the outcome under control.